Breaking news! Something is happening behind the scenes, and Ravens fans are eager to find out. The front office is adopting an innovative financial strategy, reorganizing resources in an unconventional way. This raises the question, what are they planning? Using void years in contracts, restructuring salaries, and transferring financial impacts to the future have become common practices in the NFL, and the Ravens are betting big on this approach. This could indicate that something big is coming. I need to address a few important points here with you. First, answer me this. Do you believe the Ravens have the ability to reach the next Super Bowl? If so, hit the like button. If not, hit the dislike button. If possible, comment your opinion and tell me what you would change if you were the Ravens GM. In my opinion, the Ravens have everything to get there, but there are some important decisions to make regarding some players and their contracts. Let's analyze the details. Ronnie Stanley signed a 3-year, $60 million contract, but that's not the most interesting aspect. The Ravens added void years to the deal, just like they did with Marlon Humphrey. That restructuring reduced Humphrey's 2024 salary to just $1.25 million, while converting $16.7 million into bonuses, freeing up more than $13 million against the salary cap. Additionally, DeAndre Hopkins signed a 1-year deal, but due to the use of void years, his presence will only count toward next year's salary cap by about $2 million. This isn't just about keeping the books balanced. This is a team that has something planned. You don't just manipulate the cap to this degree unless you're making room for something, someone. A splash move? A blockbuster trade? A high-profile free agent still waiting in the wings? It's impossible to say for certain. But one thing is clear, Eric DeCosta and the Ravens front office are positioning themselves for something. But then there's the elephant in the room, Mark Andrews. His name has been circulating in trade rumors, and with Greg Roman now with the Chargers, speculation is heating up. If Andrews were to leave, it would be before March 20th, when his $4 million roster bonus is due. That's the deadline. If the Ravens don't want to pay it, then Andrews could be gone within the week. And we get it, some Ravens fans still feel the sting of that playoff game. The heartbreaking loss. The back-to-back plays that left everyone in disbelief. But let's be real, Mark Andrews is still an elite tight end. If the Ravens trade him, they better have a clear plan for replacing that production, because this offense runs through Lamar Jackson and his chemistry with Andrews has been undeniable for years. And let's not forget the pass rush situation. Baltimore has always been about defense, but when it mattered most, they faded. In the playoffs, when the lights were the brightest, the pass rush just wasn't there. So now the question becomes, will the Ravens go after a difference maker? Fans are calling for a move. Von Miller's name has been thrown into the mix, though at 35 years old, it's fair to question how much he has left. Others have suggested bringing back Matthew Judon or even trading for Trey Hendrickson. But here's the thing, a first-round pick for Hendrickson? That's a steep price. The Bengals know what they have, and they aren't about to just give him away, especially not to a division rival. This brings us to the upcoming draft. The Ravens are in a solid spot, but they aren't far off from being a true Super Bowl contender. They've locked in DeAndre Hopkins to boost the receiving core, but what about cornerback? What about another linebacker now that Patrick Queen is gone? What about another pass rusher? The foundation is there, but they need to plug the right holes. So the big question is, what's next? Are the Ravens gearing up for a major move, or are they just playing it safe? Is Mark Andrews staying or going? Will they finally go all in on a superstar pass rusher? The next few weeks will tell us everything we need to know. But now it's your turn. What do you think? Are the Ravens making the right moves, or should they be more aggressive? If Mark Andrews gets traded, who would you want to replace him? And what's the one move Baltimore needs to make to get over the hump? Let me know in the comments. And here's where things get even more interesting. If the Ravens are setting themselves up for a major move, who or what are they targeting? The restructuring of contracts and the use of void years isn't just a short-term fix. It's a strategic play, a calculated effort to create cap flexibility while still keeping the core of this team intact. But let's not sugarcoat things. Baltimore still has questions to answer. While DeAndre Hopkins brings veteran leadership and a reliable set of hands, this team still needs to shore up its offensive line. Left guard remains a glaring need, and right guard is still a major question mark with Daniel Falele expected to step into that role. And let's be real, Falele has shown flashes of potential, but trusting him to be a full-time starter protecting Lamar Jackson? That's a gamble. And speaking of protecting Lamar, the running back situation looks promising on paper, but durability is always a concern. Derrick Henry is a powerhouse, but he's also taken a ton of hits over his career. If Baltimore is truly in win-now mode, do they bring in another insurance policy? Then, there's the defense. The Ravens lost some key pieces. Patrick Queen is gone, Brandon Stevens is gone, and Michael Pierce is retiring. That leaves holes that need to be filled, and while the Ravens always pride themselves on developing talent, this offseason feels different. There's a sense of urgency, a realization that they were this close last season, and that standing pat isn't an option. So let's talk about the draft. The Ravens hold the 30th pick in the first round. But do they stay put, or do they trade up to secure a true difference maker? Historically, Baltimore has prioritized best player available over need, but this year, the need is clear: edge rusher. The AFC is stacked with elite quarterbacks, and if Baltimore wants to make a deep playoff run, they have to get better at pressuring the passer. Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy were solid last year, but relying on aging veterans isn't a sustainable strategy. And let's not forget about the secondary. With Brandon Stevens gone, the Ravens have a decision to make at cornerback. Marlon Humphrey is still the anchor of the unit, but injuries have slowed him down in recent seasons. Baltimore did draft Nate Wiggins, and there's optimism that he can develop into a true CB1, but is he ready for that role in year one? Do they bring in a veteran to help solidify the position? And what about safety? Right now, the Ravens are rolling with Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton, but depth is a concern. This defense thrives on versatility, and with Mike McDonald gone, new defensive coordinator Zach Orr will have some tough decisions to make. One thing's for sure, this front office isn't done yet. There's a reason they've been making all these financial moves, and if history tells us anything, it's that Eric DeCosta always has something up his sleeve. Whether it's a blockbuster trade, a surprise free agent signing, or an aggressive move in the draft, the next few weeks will be crucial in determining the Ravens' championship window. So now, I turn it over to you. What do you think Baltimore's next move should be? Should they go all in on a pass rusher? Should they trade up in the draft? And if Mark Andrews gets moved, who do you see stepping up in his absence? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's talk about it. And here's where things start to get really fascinating. The Ravens are in a unique position, not in a rebuild, not in a full-on win-now desperation mode, but somewhere in between. They're at a crossroads. This team has all the foundational pieces to be a Super Bowl contender, but there are still lingering concerns that could make or break their season. One of the biggest questions remains: are the Ravens doing enough? It's one thing to make smart financial moves and create flexibility, but at some point, you have to take that leap. The front office has built this roster with precision, but in a league where the Kansas City Chiefs are still the team to beat, is Baltimore being aggressive enough? The fan base is split. Some believe in the Ravens' way of patience and player development. Others are frustrated, watching teams like the Eagles and 49ers make splash moves every offseason while Baltimore plays it safe. And that brings us back to Mark Andrews. If the rumors are true and he's truly on the trade block, then what's the end game here? What would a trade even look like? Andrews isn't just another tight end. He's been the guy for Lamar Jackson. Trading him would be a monumental shift, and it would have to be for something significant in return. Could it be for a top-tier pass rusher? A high draft pick? Another weapon to pair with Zay Flowers and DeAndre Hopkins? Because if the Ravens do trade Andrews, they can't afford to miss on the return. So let's hear it. If you're the Ravens front office, what's the one move you would make right now? Would you go all in for a star pass rusher? Would you trade Mark Andrews? Or is there a wild card move we're all overlooking? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's break it down.